Between 1941 and the end of the Second World War in 1945, German Nazis, along with their allies, rounded up and killed approximately 6 million Jews, as well as other minorities from occupied areas of Europe through orchestrated mass murder. That amounts to about two-thirds of all the Jews on the European continent at the time. As the Allied powers advanced through German territories, they liberated concentration camps, realizing then the true devastation that had been occurring under the Nazi regime. With the closing of the war, all of Europe was left with a sense of guilt over the events that came to be known as the Holocaust. Since that time, the United States and Israel, which was formed as an official Jewish state in 1948, have been two of the leading countries in the world to commemorate the Holocaust through memorials, museums, and days of remembrance. With the emergence of Holocaust memorials came the question of how the Holocaust should be remembered and how memorials could be used to guide this memory for the public.
Public or collective memory is the collection of shared memories of a group concerning an event. This phenomenon was first described in the mid-1800s, but has been popularized in the last half of a century. In particular, collective memory has been used in recent times to describe the ways that different groups of people have remembered the Holocaust, especially how museums and other forms of commemoration have been used to shape public memory. This has made the concept of collective memory, particularly as it relates to the Holocaust, a very controversial topic. Critics are quick to point out that if each monument or memorial can be used as a means to accomplish a goal, by asking people to remember the event in a specific way, what will prevent the groups guiding memory production from manipulating history in order to fulfill their own purposes?
Just as memorials are capable of bringing people to reach certain conclusions and remember events in a certain way, so too do museums, through specific goals that they strive to accomplish. In the United States and Israel, the two most well-known and influential Holocaust museums are the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C., and the Yad Vashem Holocaust History Museum in Jerusalem. Each museum has certain goals that they hope to achieve through their exhibits, which differ to fit the culture and audience of each.
The United States Holocaust Museum is a place for visitors to study and interpret the history of the Holocaust through the documents that we have and the exhibits that we have. The museum's primary goal is to spread awareness and understanding about this great tragedy in modern history. We encourage visitors to uphold the memory of the victims and to reflect upon the moral questions that those terrible events raise. The museum hopes to be a living memorial to inspire people from around the world to recognize hatred and to take a stand against future acts of genocide.
The Yad Vashem Holocaust History Museum presents a multifaceted view of the Holocaust from a uniquely Jewish perspective. It focuses on the individual victims and allows visitors to reflect personally on this tragedy. It is also a living memorial to the Holocaust for the Jewish people, a place for people from around the world to research the past and pass on understanding of the Holocaust to a new generation of students. The museum is a place for healing and remembrance where people can move on from the past and rebuild.
Central to the reasoning behind each museum's mission is the history of Holocaust commemoration in their respective countries, as well as the cultural situation in each today as they continue to process a tragic event that took place over 70 years ago. Israel has a particularly unique relationship with Holocaust memory, as the nation was formed after the Holocaust took place as a homeland for primary victims of the Holocaust.
Israel has an interesting connection to the Holocaust as a Jewish state. Today, it's one of the leading nations in the world for Holocaust research and commemoration. However, before about 1960, the Holocaust was rarely even spoken of in Israel, and when it was discussed, the focus was on Jewish resistors, not the victims, who were seen as weakening the image of the new nation. There was also a sense in Israel during that time that it was too soon to discuss the Holocaust, due to the strong personal ties that many people had to it. Then, in 1960, the Israeli government captured Nazi leader Adolf Eichmann, one of the main organizers of the Holocaust. His trial was made into a public spectacle in order to awaken the Israelis' memory of the Holocaust. At that time, Holocaust memorials in Israel began to shift their focus from resistors to victims. seeing the Holocaust for the first time as a part of Jewish history rather than European history. Today, Holocaust memory has become an integral part of Israeli identity, and the memory of that tragedy is kept alive even as generations become further and further removed from the event themselves.
Israel's changing views of Holocaust memory over time can be seen in the history of the Yad Vashem itself. The organization's goals have changed with the culture over time to become what it is now. This is partly a result of changing public memory, but has also helped to shape the new collective memory of the nation.
The Yad Vashem as an organization was formed in 1953 as a global center for Holocaust research, education, commemoration, and documentation. The museum was built 4 years later in 1957, although a new version has since replaced the original museum in 2005. The original museum featured exhibits on Jewish resistance movements, camp uprisings, and the movement towards Zionism. Today, the museum seeks to commemorate the 6 million Jews who perished in the Holocaust, focusing on their individual lives and stories rather than as a homogeneous group. This is accomplished by allowing visitors to experience personal stories through artifacts, photographs, artwork, and survivor testimonies. The museum complex is also home to a database of Shoah victims' names. To date, over 3 million Jews' names and stories have been entered into the database, and we are working diligently to gather as many of the rest as we can while the generation that experienced the Holocaust is still here to assist us. There are also memorials around the Yad Vashem complex dedicated to various groups, including a memorial to the 1.5 million children who perished in an eternal flame of remembrance burning next to a crypt of ashes brought from an extermination camp, and an original cattle car to commemorate the transportation of victims from across Europe to the deaths in German camps. There is also a special garden and tree-lined avenue in front of the museum to commemorate the many non-Jews who risked their lives to protect Jews during the Holocaust. The Yad Vashem also hosts ceremonies throughout the year, including official Holocaust Remembrance Day, to commemorate specific groups and events from the Holocaust.
Similar to Israel, United States Holocaust memory has been a reflection of the culture in which it is situated. The goals and actions of the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum can be viewed through the lens of an American culture and America's relationship with the Holocaust over time.
The United States is also an interesting case for Holocaust memory and commemoration, as it was never actually involved in the Holocaust, either as a victim or a perpetrator, but it's become a leader in Holocaust research and memorials. Immediately following the war, the U.S., similar to the rest of the world, made no attempt to separate the events of the Holocaust from the rest of World War II. Even at the Nuremberg trials, which displayed to American citizens the horrors of the Holocaust crimes were combined with other war crimes and tried together without making a distinction between the events. With time, however, Americans became fascinated by the Holocaust, making an emotional connection to the event that they had no involvement in. By the 1980s, the U.S. government had issued proclamations for the opening of a museum commemorating the Holocaust, as well as for annual days of remembrance to be celebrated across the country. In everything, there has been a uniquely American tone, striving not just for remembrance of past events, but also for the prevention of future acts of genocide around the world. Today, Americans seem even more fascinated by the Holocaust than ever before, as they seek to follow the paths collective memory has laid for them by engaging with the past and standing up for injustice in the modern world.
The United States' interaction with Holocaust memory can also be seen in its Holocaust Memorial Museum. The museum has acted as a driving force for the creation of a collective memory of the Holocaust in America and has been highly influential in keeping the Holocaust in the forefront of the American public awareness.
The United States Holocaust Museum was commissioned in 1979 by President Carter, and construction began in 1985. We finally opened in 1993. Through the various permanent and featured collections, all aspects of the Holocaust, as well as other genocides, the museum is working with people around the world to spread the truth about the Holocaust, honor victims and survivors through remembrance of their lives and their deaths, and confront modern genocide and anti-Semitism in order to prevent this tragedy from ever repeating itself.
Over the past several decades, the United States and Israel have encouraged the growth of collective memory concerning the Holocaust through the use of memorials, days of remembrance, and their respective Holocaust museums. These two nations share a unique connection to the Holocaust because neither was actively involved in it, but they've become two of the most prominent nations in Holocaust remembrance. However, each differs in which they choose to remember according to their goals for engaging their audiences. Despite these differences, the United States and Israel have kept Holocaust memory alive in younger generations and have significantly impacted the world's understanding of the Holocaust.